Lecture 13, Contemporary Global Challenges. U.S. China Strategic Competition, Regional Conflicts, Global Governance, Climate, Cybersecurity, and Economic Interdependence. Introduction: A world of interconnected rivalries. The contemporary international system is marked by a paradox. On the one hand, states are more economically, technologically, and environmentally interconnected than ever before. On the other hand, strategic distrust among major powers has intensified. The United States and China remain deeply linked through trade, finance, technology supply chains, universities, investment, and global institutions. Yet they increasingly view each other not simply as competitors, but as systemic rivals whose choices shape the future distribution of power. This lecture examines contemporary global challenges through three connected themes. First, U.S. China strategic competition. Second, regional conflicts in Ukraine and the Indo-Pacific. And third, global governance challenges involving climate change, cybersecurity, and economic interdependence. The central argument is that today's global order is not collapsing into a simple new Cold War, but it is being transformed by overlapping forms of rivalry, fragmentation, and selective cooperation. On U.S. China strategic competition. U.S. China strategic competition is the organizing tension of 21st century international politics. It is not limited to military rivalry. It includes technology, trade, finance, artificial intelligence, semiconductors, maritime security, global infrastructure, diplomatic influence, ideology, and control over international standards. The United States sees China as the only power, with both the capability and ambition to reshape the international order. China, meanwhile, views U.S. alliances, export controls, military deployments, and technology restrictions as attempts to contain its rise. This mutual suspicion creates a security dilemma. Each side claims its actions are defensive, but the other side interprets them as threatening. The Indo-Pacific is the central geographic arena of this rivalry. The U.S. Department of Defense's 2025 report on China emphasizes that China's military focus remains the first island chain, stretching from Japan through Taiwan and the Philippines toward Southeast Asia, because this region is strategically central to Beijing's goals. China's growing naval, missile, cyber, nuclear, and space capabilities are changing the military balance in East Asia and forcing neighboring states to rethink deterrence, alliance strategy, and crisis management. However, U.S. China competition is not a simple bipolar confrontation. Many countries in Asia do not want to choose permanently. Between Washington and Beijing, they seek strategic autonomy, economic benefit, and security protection at the same time. A 2026 Brookings analysis of Indo-Pacific perspectives argues that regional actors are not passive objects of U.S. China rivalry, but active strategic agents, trying to shape their own environment. This means that middle powers such as South Korea, Japan, Australia, India, Indonesia, Vietnam, and the Philippines matter greatly. Their choices can either stabilize or intensify regional competition. The competition also has a technological dimension. Semiconductors, AI systems, quantum computing, cloud infrastructure, batteries, rare earths, and biotechnology are no longer seen merely as commercial sectors. They are strategic assets. Control over advanced chips and digital platforms can determine military power, economic productivity, surveillance capacity, and global influence. Therefore, export controls, investment screening, supply chain, diversification, and industrial policy have become central instruments of national security. At the same time, complete decoupling is unrealistic. The U.S. and Chinese economies remain deeply interconnected. The more accurate concept is de-risking, reducing dependence in sensitive sectors, while maintaining trade in less strategic areas. This creates a fragmented form of globalization, where economic integration continues but under stronger geopolitical filters. 2. Regional conflicts: Ukraine and the Indo-Pacific. 2.1 Ukraine and the return of war in Europe. Russia's invasion of Ukraine transformed European security. It revived territorial war, strengthened NATO's strategic purpose, accelerated European defense spending, and deepened the division between Russia and the West. NATO states continue to support Ukraine, militarily, politically, and economically. As Ukraine defends itself against Russian aggression, The Ukraine war is not only a regional conflict. It is a test case for the future of international order. If territorial conquest succeeds, the principle of sovereign equality is weakened. If Ukraine survives as an independent state, the norm against conquest is reinforced. Thus, the war affects calculations far beyond Europe, including in the Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea. The war has also revealed the changing character of modern conflict. Drones, cyber attacks, satellite intelligence, electronic warfare, long-range missiles, information operations, and economic sanctions are now central to warfare. The conflict has become a laboratory for low-cost, high-impact technologies. Recent reporting shows that the Pentagon has been studying drone warfare, lessons from Ukraine, and investing more heavily in low-cost, unmanned systems as part of future military planning. 2.2 The Indo-Pacific and the Risk of Crisis. The Indo-Pacific is the second major arena of contemporary regional conflict. Unlike Ukraine, the Indo-Pacific has not yet experienced a major power war in the current period. But the risk of crisis is high because of Taiwan, the South China Sea, the East China Sea, the Korean Peninsula, and growing naval and air encounters. Taiwan is the most dangerous flashpoint. Beijing claims Taiwan as part of China and has not renounced the use of force. The United States maintains a policy of strategic ambiguity, while supporting Taiwan's self-defense. Taiwan has responded to Chinese pressure by strengthening deterrence and social resilience, including more realistic military exercises and asymmetric defense efforts. The South China Sea is another site of tension. China's maritime claims overlap with those of several Southeast Asian states. The area is important for shipping, fisheries, energy resources, military access, and symbolic sovereignty. Incidents involving Coast Guard vessels, maritime militia, naval forces, and aircraft can escalate quickly. The Indo-Pacific differs from Europe in one important way. It is more economically integrated with China. Many regional states depend on China as a major trading partner, while relying on the United States or U.S. aligned networks for security. This produces a dual structure: economic dependence on China and security dependence on the United States. The result is strategic hedging rather than simple alignment. 3. Global governance challenges. Global governance refers to the rules, institutions, norms, and cooperative mechanisms that help states manage common problems. These include the United Nations, World Trade Organization, International Monetary Fund, World Bank, World Health Organization, climate agreements, arms control regimes, and informal forums such as the G7 and G20. Today, global governance faces three major problems. First, power is shifting. Institutions created after World War II still reflect the distribution of power of that era. Many emerging powers argue that they are underrepresented. This creates legitimacy problems. Second, great power rivalry blocks cooperation. The UN Security Council struggles when major powers disagree. Trade rules become harder to enforce when states use tariffs, subsidies, and export controls for strategic purposes. 4. Climate change as a security and governance challenge. Climate change is no longer only an environmental issue. It is a security, economic, humanitarian, legal, and moral challenge. Rising temperatures, extreme weather, droughts, floods, food insecurity, sea level rise, and displacement affect state stability and human security. Climate change also intensifies inequality. Wealthy countries historically emitted more greenhouse gases, while poorer countries often suffer more severe consequences with fewer resources for adaptation. This creates disputes over climate justice, compensation, technology transfer, and development rights. 5. Cybersecurity and digital conflict. Cybersecurity is another major global challenge. Because modern societies depend on digital networks, governments, banks, hospitals, universities, energy grids, transportation systems, militaries, and ordinary citizens all rely on data infrastructure. This creates vulnerability. Cyber conflict differs from traditional military conflict in several ways. Attacks can be anonymous or deniable. The boundary between state and non-state actors is blurry. Cyber operations can occur below the threshold of war. They can steal data, disrupt services, manipulate information, damage infrastructure, or influence elections. Cybersecurity is closely connected to U.S.-China competition. Both countries worry about espionage, intellectual property theft, surveillance, platform dependence, cloud infrastructure, AI-enabled cyber tools, and the security of telecommunications networks. Digital systems are now part of national power. There is also a governance problem. States disagree over norms of responsible behavior in cyberspace. Democratic societies emphasize openness, privacy, and free information flows, though they also conduct intelligence operations. Authoritarian systems often emphasize state sovereignty. Information control and surveillance. These differences make global cyber rules difficult to negotiate.